I like to call it the MVP, the minimum viable product. It is so much more important to get it out there than keep tweaking with it behind the scenes and never publishing it. And I think for two reasons. One, you need it out there so people can start finding you. And two, tweaking with your website in the beginning is not what you should be spending your time on. I see people get hung up on their colors and their logos all the time. And I truly do not think that your logo is going to keep somebody from hiring you. And when you look at the way a lot of logos are designed right now, there's a lot that are just word marks where it's just text.
Yeah.
And there's no icon or image that goes with it. So honestly, you can save yourself some time and just write your name, of your business up at the top of the website.
You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 194 of Design Curious Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have returning guest Robyn White. She was way back on episode 50, and she's returned today to give us a lot more insight on websites. But let me tell you or remind you about her that she brings a rare fusion of strategy and aesthetics to interior design websites. A website designer who didn't follow the traditional path, she began her career working at one of the most prestigious art galleries in the world. She learned how the affluent think, what they value, and who they choose to work with. In 2019, she founded RDW Design Studio, where she combines that luxury market expertise with digital strategy to help elevate interior designers into the high-end market via an online presence that aligns with the clients, projects, and opportunities they deserve so they can step into their next level of success. Robyn has been featured by a range of design industry resources from Business of Home to High Point Market, and I'm always love talking with her. I've talked with her for personal things on my own website and just connecting her with other people in the industry, and she's just so easy to talk with and get along with, and I know you're going to love our second conversation, and you'll probably want to go and reach out to her too. So let's talk with Robyn. Hey, Robyn, welcome back to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you again.
Hi, Rebecca. It is so great to be back. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's like having a friend come back because we've been chatting for my own business on different things. And so I love talking with you, and it's great to have you here to share with everyone else your expertise.
I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah. So today I thought it'd be great for us to talk about what it's really like working with a website designer. When do you need to do it? Is a template going to work? And the different levels. And I'm coming to it because, we recently had our boot campers go through my Launch Your Business boot camp, and they're all starting out and starting their website. And so these are questions too that they're asking, like, what level of investment should I do? And what do I need to know about working with a website designer? So let's start there and talk about what it's like to work with a website designer and questions you should ask.
Sure. One thing that I think is really important for your listeners to understand is that website designers, like interior designers, we're all really different. We all include very different things. We all work very differently. We all bring very different skill sets to the table. And when you're thinking about hiring a website designer, it can range anywhere from, let's say, $500 to upwards of $50,000. And I think interior designers would often say the same thing. Mm-hmm. So I, for example, will custom quote all of my projects based on what different people need, the functionalities they need, things like that. So just kind of bear that in mind when you are looking at different designers' websites and thinking about having discovery calls with them, that they're all bringing different things to the table. So when you think about questions that you should ask before hiring them. This is where you're really going to be able to find out so much more about them and whether it's going to be a good fit for you. So I would say one of the most important questions is to ask, what platform do they work on? And the three big ones, WordPress, Wix, and Squarespace. There's also Shopify if you sell, and then It's become increasingly popular.
Okay.
So if you have an idea of what platform you're familiar with. So for example, if you did your own website on Squarespace and you know how to use it, and now you just want something that's professionally designed, you might want to stay with Squarespace. And then you need to be really careful that the designers you're talking to actually work in that platform.
Yes.
I personally only work in WordPress, so I wouldn't be a good fit if they really wanted Squarespace. But then the flip side of that, is that where you should be spending your time? Should you be in your website all the time doing things, or should you leave that to your website designer to do so you can focus on your clients and other marketing initiatives, in which case then go ahead and hire them for whatever platform they work on. So platform is super important. I always suggest asking about their process because, like interior designers, you want your website designer to have a process. It shows a lot of different things. One, it shows they've done this before, right? So they know what they're doing. They're going to be the guide that's guiding you through this. They should be taking charge. They should be letting you know they have this 4-step process. This is what's going to happen here. This is what's going to happen here. I like all of my clients to know exactly what's going to happen when they're going to be the most involved, when I'm going to need them the most, when it's going to be the quietest for them. And we actually plan a timeline collaboratively. So I can say, well, normally this would take 6 weeks, but what else do you have going on during this time? Like, are you going to High Point Market? Are you going to Vegas Market? Do you have a big install? Do you have a family vacation plan so that we can build out that timeline so that you're never stressed? So that process is something that you really want to ask about and find out about. Timeline, that's really important. How far out are they booking? Can they start your project right away? Or do you have to wait 3 months before they can start the project? And then once you start, how long does the project take? And this is something that I think is really important to think about because, again, this goes back to us all working differently. So in their mind, do you give them all of your materials and then the project starts? So you're kind of on your own to do everything? Or are they working with you, helping you with your photos, with your copy, with whatever else they need for the website? And that's when the project starts. Then they start working with you. Then they start the design. So we all work a little differently. So that's something really important to find out. Are you getting a collaborative partner who's going to be guiding you through everything, or are you on your own and then submitting materials and then it starts, right? What kind of testing do they do? What happens when it's launched? What type of support is there after launch? What kind of training is there? Those are all questions to ask. What kind of information are they going to need from you? Right? Do you have to write your own copy or are they writing it for you? Is there a copywriter involved, right? Those kinds of things. And then obviously the cost and exactly what's included with that. So like I said, is branding included with that? Is copywriting included with that? Is SEO included with that, right? So all of those different factors are going to impact the timeline and the process and the cost, right?
Yeah, I think probably a lot of people would assume that the branding and the SEO and copywriting would be included if you're going to a website designer, but it's not. It's common, I think, for those to be outsourced by the designer or by the client coming to, like the interior designer coming to them.
Exactly. Well, sometimes what happens with me is a client will come to me and they have an existing logo, color palette, and typography that they really like that a graphic designer did for them a couple of years ago. And they want me to work with that. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. It depends after we start getting into strategy, whether that's truly representative of them or not. But something that you'll find is Website design and graphic design are different skill sets. So sometimes people can do both, sometimes not. Generally speaking, you don't want your website designer writing your copy, right? Just like you wouldn't want your copywriter designing your website. A website designer can tell you what kind of content the pages need, but they might not be a wordsmith. And then as far as SEO goes, there's lots of different schools of thought about this, but generally speaking, website design and SEO are two very different skill sets as well. So depending on the skill set of the web designer that you work with, they may offer foundational SEO in your website build where they're taking care more of like technical things on the back end and proper heading structure on the page titles and meta descriptions. And then you might get someone more like me who's also doing keyword research and content optimization. So again, there's a big variance in terms of skill sets there.
Yeah, so it's good to pinpoint what the scope of work would be by the website designer. Do you think that for like chain of events coming to work with a website designer, I mean, maybe you've thought that like, oh, I need to rebrand, and then the website will be a part of that. And so they work with a branding specialist first before they even meet a website designer. Do you think that that's okay? Or should they in conjunction, like be talking to a website designer and a branding person at the same time?
I would say most of the time your website designer will be, well, generally they're going to deal with brand strategy. And that's really the first step. So before you're hiring someone who's going to work on any brand visuals for you, you really want to work on your brand foundations, your brand strategy. So that's really where you're thinking about your mission, vision, goals, positioning, messaging, ideal client, differentiator, all of those types of things. And you really have to have that ironed out and clarity around those foundational elements of your brand before you can start working on brand visuals. Because let's think about it, depending on who your ideal client is, and then depending on how you want people to feel when they interact with your brand, you're going to select different fonts and different colors based on that. So an example is if your ideal client are single men, bachelors in their 20s, pink is probably not a great brand color for you, right? I'm just speaking very generally. That may not resonate with that target audience, right? And you're probably not going to want a really girly type of font, right? So you just want to think about that. And then, your personality, are you like buttoned up and professional? Are you like fun and carefree and whimsical? Like all of that needs to come into play in your brand foundations. And then that's visually represented in your colors and your typography. And then once that's ironed out, you can move on to logo concepts. Then you can move on to writing the words on your website so that your messaging is coming across, and then designing the website. I would say oftentimes, yes, they should all be together. And a lot of the times your website designer is going to do an enormous amount of strategy with you, or they can't deliver a website that's really going to function as a strategic marketing tool for your business.
Okay, that's good to know. So start with a website designer.
Generally speaking, I would say yes, because if it's, so I'll use myself as an example. While I don't do the actual graphic design of the logo, I do the brand strategy part. And then I don't do the writing, but I have a copywriter and a graphic designer on my team. So if you come to me, you can get it all in-house, all under one umbrella. We all work together. So I would say, yes, that's probably the best place to start. And they would hopefully be very honest with you whether they can tackle that entire project themselves or with team members.
Yeah. And it really correlates well to interior design process as well, because we want the client to start with the interior designer, not the contractor, So like they could start with the contractor, but the contractor is not really going to be able to give them accurate information until they've discovered what it is their scope of work really needs to be. after talking
Yeah.
with a designer. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's very true.
parallel. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I found the more designers that I work with, the more similarities there are between our two industries in terms of how we really work and what the process is. It's
hmm
really interesting. One example is when you guys present a design concept and then the client disappears for a couple of weeks or something before giving a response, and it totally messes up the project. And the same thing can happen with a website designer
Yeah.
if a client disappears and doesn't give you their materials, right? So
Yeah.
it's a lot of similarities.
Mm. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's really good information to know where to start. I didn't start that way at all. Of course, this was like, we're going on like 18 years ago when I actually did make my website. And I feel like there's a lot less online resources than there are now,
Hmm.
18 years ago. So I just kind of picked a template that came with, it was Google or Microsoft or something like that. And
Hmm.
they had a photo of a chair. So I plugged that in. And then, but I mean, at the time, there was not a lot of competition for interior design websites. I was one of the few that actually had a website, probably because I was younger and all the experienced designers really maybe had a landing page, but that was it. They still use the yellow pages and, so things have changed a lot, but needless
A
to
lot
say,
has changed.
yeah.
Yes.
It took me a long time to actually work with a website designer. And when I finally did, I really appreciated what they brought to the table. And just as personal note, I have a band with my husband. And so I created like a little mini website, just a page so that we can like update our show dates and playlist and everything like that. And so I chose WordPress because that's the platform that my business website is on. And I just tried to use a template from WordPress. And it was so frustrating without having all of the usual things set up that the website designer had done for me. So even using a template with that I'm like, this is not really worth it. I need to get someone else to do it. But I
Yes.
didn't really want to spend that much money on it. It just needs to be like a little, free thing.
Sure.
But yeah,
Sure.
so anyway, website designers, what I'm trying to say is like worth every penny. So, but maybe we could talk a little bit about templates and when it's right to use a template if you're starting out or not, or what's your take on that?
Yeah. So my opinion is when you're first starting out, so let's say your first 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of things that you're still figuring out, still learning. And I don't recommend investing in a custom website at that stage. And the reason is that most likely within those first 2 years, everything's going to change. Because of that, I sometimes think it's easier just do a logo on Canva, pick some
Mm-hmm.
colors and some fonts, and find a template that you like and have a web presence because it's incredibly important to be taken seriously nowadays. You
Mm-hmm.
need a website, but I wouldn't spend a ton of time obsessing over it because in the beginning, it's more important that you're getting your networking and your marketing and you're getting the word out and you're getting clients and you're working on projects that you have them for your portfolio, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
figuring out who is it that your ideal client is? What are the services that you actually want to offer? Because you can start out saying XYZ is your ideal client, and 2.5 years later, it's ABC.
Yeah.
And you can say you offer 1, 2, 3 as your services, and then a year and a half in, you hate 2 and 3, and you're just focusing on one, and you're
Mm-hmm.
going to offer 4 as well, right?
Yeah.
So all of that changes. And when all of that foundational stuff changes, you're going to need a new website, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
nothing about that original one is really going to be representative of you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it's then time to invest in going custom. So in the beginning, I think a template can be a really great way to have a website that's been professionally designed, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't look too DIY. The great thing about templates is the budget is going to be less, the timeline is going to be shorter. Those are two really big things when you need something quickly and
Mm-hmm.
you haven't gotten a lot of clients under your belt, so you don't have a lot of money to spend.
Yeah.
When it's not appropriate is when you are established and you know who your brand is,
Mm-hmm.
because the template is essentially, it's kind of set. So there's less manipulating that you can do. A custom site's going to be designed very specifically to you and your ideal client and the customer journey that you want to take them on. So a template is a great starting point.
Okay, great. Yeah. And I know from talking with a lot of new designers in business that it's really hard for them to publish their first website, I think, without it being perfect and the way they want. Like the little minor details can be holding them back from publishing it. I always encourage them, just get it out there. 80% is better than not at all. And so would you agree with that? And do you have any recommendations for people struggling with that?
I agree 100% with that. I like to call it the MVP, the minimum viable product. It is so much more important to get it out there than keep tweaking with it behind the scenes and never publishing it. And I think for two reasons. One, you need it out there so people can start finding you. And two, tweaking with your website in the beginning is not what you should be spending your time on, right? I see people get hung up on their colors and their logos all the time. And I truly do not think that your logo is going to keep somebody from hiring you. And when you look at the way a lot of logos are designed right now, there's a lot that are just word marks where it's just text.
Yeah.
And there's no icon or image that goes with it. So honestly, you can save yourself some time and just write your name, of your business up at the top of the website. You can easily go on Pinterest or Google and find font pairings. Like in the beginning, this just shouldn't be what matters, right?
Yeah.
What's much more important is how you are presenting your work and the quality of your photos of your work. That people are really going to notice much more, and how you are sharing your story and the messaging that you're getting across. So I would say if there's anything that you're going to be nitpicking, it should be the words almost and your images more than anything else in the beginning.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what if they don't have a lot of images? So I always will recommend designers get some flat lays, do a corner of your house and get a photographer to come in and just pay for those professional looking photos, even if it's not a whole project that you've worked on. But do you have any other advice for people that might not have a big portfolio yet?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's one that I hear a lot. I agree with you about their own homes. You designed your home. And even if you didn't do the whole home or a whole room, like you said, set up a beautiful area in a room, and you don't need a full room shot. Have a professional photographer come in and get those detail shots if possible. I think it's really important to have it done professionally. You can tell the difference immediately between an iPhone photograph and a professional photograph. The other thing is, like you said, flat lays, mood boards, renderings.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And I don't think you need to lie about the fact that you're a new business, right? Get photos of you, hire a professional photographer, do a brand photo shoot, and get shots of you in action. So arranging a floral arrangement on a dining room table, arranging decor on a bookshelf, looking through tile samples, fabric samples, paint samples, whatever it is. Things like that, you in action, those can be photos that you can use on your website until you build up your portfolio. And frankly, in the very beginning, you can go without a portfolio page if you need to. Just have home about services and contact. Portfolio, right, coming soon.
Yeah.
People will understand as long as there's some photos that you can show them of work that you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think you can make up projects
Yes.
and do mood boards and renderings and flat lays for them. And then what you can have in your portfolio is coming soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
With a photo.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people might be hesitant because they're like, I don't want to show that I'm so inexperienced. But at the same time, you kind of want that transparency as well, because you don't want your client to expect that they're, getting someone with 10 years of experience when they're not. And so
exactly,
I think that clients would appreciate that transparency and understand that, you're just starting out. And some clients are looking for that. They're looking for that new designer because probably you're charging a little bit less and they're willing to take the risk of you learning through the process. And that's totally fine. So I think that does hold people back, the fact that they don't have a portfolio.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't hold you back. And the other thing is, a lot of times it'll be a designer who possibly worked for another firm for 15 years and just doesn't have work that they can share because it was under another firm's name. And that's something you can probably creatively get across on your about page, that you have all of this experience that you just, and in a discovery call that you just started out on your own. Maybe there is a way that some photos of projects that you worked on with that other firm can be shown in person in a consultation, whereas you're not able to share those online on your website or in your social media. So I think there's some ways around it, but I always think being honest and transparent is way better than using stock photos. That's misrepresenting because people will automatically assume that it's your work and it's not.
Okay. Yeah. That was my next question is it appropriate to use stock photos for anything on your website?
I am not a fan of designers doing that because even if you're using it on pages that are not your portfolio page or a project page, I think it's just a given that people assume all the photos on the website are your work.
Okay.
So to me, it's a little misleading. The other thing is, if you're going to free stock photo sites, I think you need to be really careful because a lot of times those photos are familiar. We've seen them before. And then think about what sort of message does that send? If a potential client comes to your website and sees a photograph that they've seen somebody else using on social media, that makes them immediately question and possibly distrust you or both designers, right?
Yeah.
So I just don't think it's a good idea. I'd rather see less.
Okay. We talked about renderings are okay, if you create through SketchUp or something, but what about AI generated renderings that might be, just through ChatGPT or something like that?
I think that we're moving there, and I don't necessarily have an issue with that. If you've given Chat all of the instructions and the prompts about how to do it, it's essentially something that you've created. So I do think we're going to see a lot more people using AI to generate renderings. It can be done so much more quickly, right? So I think while now renderings can be really difficult or very expensive to outsource, so they're not always included as part of the designer's process, with the rise of AI and it being able to create these for you that are looking really good, I think there's going to be more and more of those. It's going to become a bit more the norm than the exception.
Okay. Yeah. And I think it probably, you could show the renderings, but also noting that it's an inspiration design or something, it's not supposed to be a photorealistic project that you don't try to pretend that you've done the work when you haven't,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. I think those are all really good points. What else should we be mindful of as we are working with a website designer?
Yeah. So one thing I think you should really think about when you are looking to hire one is take a close look at their website and look at their portfolio. We all have our own styles. Same way interior designers have their own styles. And yes, we can design for specific brands and specific kinds of target audiences and things, but our underlying style will most likely peek through in every website. So you want to make sure that you're really looking at the work that the website designer has done and that there's something about it that resonates with you that you really like, knowing that they're capable of doing something different, but this is just generally what their sites look like. So take a look at those. And if you can actually visit the live site, a lot of times they'll have project pages that will have screenshots and then links to the live site. Go take a look at that, see how it works on different devices and see
Mm,
how quickly it loads and, the functionality of it. So you really know what they're capable of delivering. I think that's
mm-hmm.
really important. And then I think it's really important to spend time on that initial discovery call and to have a second one if necessary so that you can get a really good feel for their personality. Because if you're doing a custom project, it's going to be several months that you'll be working together. So personality matters. You want to make sure you actually like this person, that you can see yourself actually working with them for an extended period of time. Like, watch how they communicate, because that's probably how they're going to communicate throughout the project.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So, there's some web designers who will probably never get on a Zoom call. They want to do everything via email,
Oh,
So
yeah.
is that the way you want to work or not? So those kinds of things you should really think about. Like personally, I always ask that everything's done in email so that I have a record of everything and I
Yeah.
can refer back to things. All of our calls are on Zoom, so I
Mm-hmm.
can see you, right? So it's more personal to me
Mm-hmm.
than
Mm-hmm.
phone. I tend not to check my phone during the day, but I let my clients know that so they know if you need me quickly, like email me because I check that. I don't look at my texts during the
Yeah.
day. Like my phone's on silent, right? So make sure that they know how to communicate how they work with you so that you can make sure that's in line with how you like to work as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And then what do we need to know about the after work on
Mm.
the website? So once it's launched and published and everything, do website designers typically set it and forget it, or are they hands-on to help update as you
Mhm.
need, or are there different? I'm sure everyone offers something different, but
I think everyone's a little different. And I think a lot of it also depends on the platform. So Squarespace and Wix are simpler, more all-in-one platforms than WordPress is. They were really set up for the DIYer to be able to design their own website. So chances are, generally speaking, if you have a Squarespace or a Wix website, Squarespace and Wix are taking care of the security. They're taking care of software updates, things like that, so that you don't have to do that. And generally speaking, adding photos to your website, creating new pages is going to be a much more simple process.
mm-hmm.
With WordPress, as you know, Rebecca, it is open source rather than a closed platform. And with that gives you an enormous amount of control over everything. We get to choose our own host. We can move our website to another host whenever we want to. So we have a lot more flexibility, customization, control over things. With that control comes responsibility. So we're actually responsible for the security of our website, for the software updates. And most WordPress website designers will offer some type of monthly care plan, monthly maintenance plan where they take care of that for the client. So you don't have to worry about that. So I offer that to my clients where I do weekly updates. I monitor the security, I monitor the uptime, things like that. So you're basically paying for peace of mind. You don't have to think about it. You know that your website is up and running and it's secure. And then generally speaking, with WordPress, it depends whether you decide you want to learn how to add new pages and add new photos, or whether you have a relationship with your web designer where you can go to them and they take care of all of that for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the majority of my clients are established interior designers. They've been in business for quite a while. They're very busy. The last thing they want to do is log into their website, learn how to use it, and add new project pages to it. So they generally come to me. I do design days so I can turn everything around in a day for them, make it nice, simple, and easy. I have a couple of clients who have more active websites where, I'm doing things on a weekly basis in terms of content for them. So it totally depends on the designer and on the client, what their needs are going to be. But I would say, generally speaking, I like to develop long-term relationships with my clients. I've had several who've come to me for a redesign. They might have been one of my early clients, and,
Mm-hmm.
it's 3 or 4 years later and lots of things have changed and
Yeah.
they want to redesign and a rebrand. So I love that, get to work with someone who I already have a established relationship with. That's
Yes.
wonderful, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So I hope that helps answer that question.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, Robyn, this has been really great talking with you and getting all this information. Again, like you've been so helpful. Always good to have you on. And let's remind everybody where they can find you.
Oh, sure. So the best place to find me is my website, and that is rdwdesignstudio.com. And then I'm also on Instagram. That's the social media platform I'm most active on. And that is RDW Design Studio. Feel free to follow, reach out, and say hello.
Perfect. We'll put those links in the show notes. And thank you for coming on today. Maybe we'll have you back again in a couple of years, and then there'll be new things to talk about, I'm sure.
Always new things. Thank you so much for having me on, Rebecca. It was really a treat.
All right. So reach out to Robyn if you're interested in getting your website updated. I love that she specializes in interior design websites, and she knows exactly what we need to communicate. And so you're in good hands with her. Before we leave today, I need to remind you, we've got webinars coming up. So June 10th, and then I'm going to do it again, June 24th. These are live teachings that I'll be doing. And we'll be answering the question, are you ready to start your interior design business? And how much is it going to cost? Like, how much money do you need to start a business? So we're going to answer those questions for you in the webinar. Those free teachings you can sign up for June 10th, June 24th. That's coming up. Also, doors are open right now for boot camp. I'd love to see you in there if you know that you are ready to start your interior design business. So in 8 weeks, we're going to get you going from dreaming to designing, all set up, legitimate, the right way, all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, and you're ready to go. It's such a great offering, honestly, for everyone who's gone through it. And it's just like a real quick, you have to do a lot of work. Like, you have to roll up your sleeves and get it done, but you are ready to go and take on your first clients this fall. So if that excites you, then sign up for boot camp. And of course, My Design Mentor is always here for you. If you want to work with me online, one-on-one, through coaching calls or through more learnings that I have for you in that program, then sign up for that. Okay, all the links can be found in the show notes. And that is all I have for you today. Next week, we'll have another great episode. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.